Good afternoon. This is a hangout for software in the public interest. We're going to wait a couple of minutes because I let people know that I might be a little late, and I want to give them the opportunity to join. No vodka, sorry. Just a couple more minutes. We'll just share the screen we're going to start with. All right, so good Tuesday afternoon to you. We're here to talk about software in public interest, commonly known as SPI. This is probably the most unknown but popular nonprofit in the open source community. It contributes to the success of several very large open source or free software projects. And we'll take a look here and go through their site. First, who am I? I'm JD, Joshua Drake. I happen to be a director for software in the public interest. I'm also a director and president of the United States PostgreSQL, and I'm the lead consultant for Command Prompt, which is a PostgreSQL / open source consultancy providing professional services. I'm doing this hangout because a lot of old school open source free software people aren't willing to participate in this kind of world, meaning, Google is closed, some of Google stuff is closed source, this is a closed platform, so they don't want us to use this. I'm a little more practical. I feel like we need to be able to reach all users, whether they're hybrid users where some use open source and some use closed source, or they only use free software, they only use open source, or GPL via BS versus BSD, whatever. I don't care about any of that. I care about the education of our communities and helping those communities be successful. And software in the public interest does that. So first, let's start with a brief overview of the website, just because it's got good content. Then we'll talk about some of the things that SPI can do for communities. So starting the screen share here. All right, so what are we talking about here? It's real clear on the website, SPI-Inc.org. We're a nonprofit organization which is founded to help organizations develop and distribute open hardware and software. Very simple. It's been around a long time, and the way it basically works is you have a software project such as Debian, and Debian is an associated project with SPI. And what this allows Debian to do is claim nonprofit status as well as accept donations. This is one of the ways that they are able to put on DebConf, for example, as they take donations specifically for DebComps, so they can be earmarked and spent for the success of that conference. Other projects of note, and this is not to slight any of the projects on here, but there are a few that are very large. LibreOffice, I think we all know this is the successful fork of OpenOffice.org after Oracle, well, all but destroyed OpenOffice, unfortunately. Although note that LibreOffice has their own nonprofit, but that's in Europe. This is to help them in the United States. There's also PostgreSQL. I'm sure you've heard of that. It's basically the database that is beating everybody else in the market. Yes, it's a little biased because I make all my money from Postgres, but I think it's true. We also have others of interest in Provoxy. If you haven't heard of Provoxy, it's a great proxy, privacy protecting proxy, includes automatic ad blocking, things like that. As well as TechMax, FreedomBox, FreeDesktop.org. These are all very important projects to the open source community as a general rule, as well as some that are a little bit more focused but still important. Haskell.org, FFmpeg, ZeroAD, which is a game, great stuff. So what does it mean? How does it work to be an associated project? Well, we have an associated project how-to, which I'll click here, and I doubt you can actually read it on the screen, but we'll just run through it real quick. Basically, you have a software project, and it has to be open source or free software. You submit to SPI that you would like to be affiliated or associated with SPI, and assuming, and then there will be discussion that takes place about whether or not we want to entertain the idea of allowing you to be associated. And that at an open board meeting, all the board meetings are open, discussion will occur again, and then a vote will take place of the board to determine whether you can be associated. What does that mean? What does association mean? Well, here's the relationship, and then we'll talk about services. The relationship is very simple. We are a fiscal sponsor for associated projects. You are completely independent. We are not interested in your own community politics or anything like that, as long as what you're doing is in line with software in the public interest bylaws, which means you're working with open source and promoting open source and educating people on open source, whether it be Postgres or LibreOffice or whatever. We do not own, govern, or control your project in any way. This is important. Because some projects feel like, well, what if we get associated with SPI, or I think Software Freedom Conservatory, I think is what's called. I might have that name wrong. What happens there? You know, what about our own autonomy? Do what you want. We don't own your stuff. It's the intellectual property of your community. It's for you. We're here to help you. Now, that does not mean that we won't take some of your assets if you want, and what I mean by that is we've had some projects assign their domains to us, so there's a legal entity that owns the domains. We've had some projects have trademarks with us for a while. We had the open source trademark before we transferred it over to the open source corporation. So we do offer some of that. What if some of the other, we don't, you're able to leave anytime you want. The way it works is your community has a liaison. How you create that liaison is up to you, whether it be via vote, dictatorship, whatever, and that liaison controls the relationship with SPI. So if the liaison at any point says, no, we are done with SPI, then that's fine. You know, we wish you the best of luck. The money that you have received in donations to us will be held for you to either be dispersed by the liaison or transferred to another 501c3 nonprofit per nonprofit law. Okay? And we do not indemnify any of your projects or members. That's up to you. That's not our role. Here are some of the services we offer. We offer accepting donations and holding funds. So basically we're like a bank account, with a legal bank account versus hanging on to it personally. They are transferable to another 501c3, but not really any other corporation. We can hold substantial assets. For example, if you have equipment that gets donated, we can hold intangible assets such as domain names, trademarks, licenses, and again, this is all up to you. This isn't our requirements. These are just the things that we can help you with. We can sign contracts, and where this comes in, where this is really important, is conferences. Say you have a small but dedicated following open source project. So you got a 50 contributors, and you have about 1,000 users, and you decide to hold a one-day conference in Austin. Obviously, someone needs to sign. There has to be legal entity dealing with how do we deal with deposits, how do we sign for the conference, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this is how we do it. You are able to have SPI sign for you. We have access to legal resources. If you have questions about licensing, trademark dispute, whatever, we can help you with that, all at no cost to the project. And we can provide some technical services, such as authoritative name servers. That is at the discretion of the board, however. So in short, we're basically an umbrella corp. We're here. Excuse me, I'm going to switch back now. We are here to help you. We're here to allow open source projects to succeed. We are here for open source projects to be able to have resources in order to grow. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to say. If you have any other questions, feel free to post on the board or ping me via Google+. And I hope you have a great Tuesday.